Okay, today we have another really cool C10. This one's a little bit unique that it came from, I think it was like 13 hours away. And this truck is like the perfect amount of imperfect. And I mean that like you can get a dent or a ding or a scratch and you're not gonna wanna jump off of a cliff, so you can actually drive it. It has an LS3 and has air ride suspension that actually rides really nice. And unfortunately it did explode while it was on the dyno, so that was a little bit of a setback. This is one of those small world type things where I tuned the owner of this truck's Honda like 10, 15 years ago or something like that. And why I say it's a small world type thing is he actually works for HOLLEY tech support. So between how far he came to get here and how helpful he has been to me with questions I've had about different scenarios and things, we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure that this thing runs good. And as you can imagine with a truck like this, drivability and that type of stuff is far more important than power. This is actually the first car that I have done with dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies. And the primary reason that it came here is it was having some kind of tip-in related issues and more importantly, idle related issues. The idle with the AC off wasn't so bad, but once you turn the AC on, the thing just wanted to stall and do a bunch of goofy stuff. So that's ultimately where we end up spending a bulk of my time here. What I expected kind of as far as with the idle, with the drive-by-wire, with the dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies, and then like what actually happened were two totally different things. I do not know if it was a result of the throttle bodies or just this car wants to be a pain in the butt, but it took a ton of effort to get the idle to do what I wanted to do with the AC on and then also with the AC off. But I think I nailed it. I spent several days on this, not full days, but several days going back and forth, warm starts, cold starts, all that. And then I drove it around for about an hour this morning and then made some further tweaks and changes and then drove it around for another half hour, 45 minutes. This thing sat overnight. This would be the first start. How it wants to cold start. Really, I'm not too worried about anything other than I think I might have a little too much IAC park position in it. So let's see what happens. Yes, too much. Oops. Probably help if I send it to the ECU. Way better, but still too much. Try one more time. And I'll have this car for a few days, so I'll be able to play with this a little bit more. Perfect. So now I guess I'll go ahead and start building a fuel curve for this thing. Close there at about 2,000 RPM. It's about 2,500. Learn's turned off, just using closed loop. Suspension just lowered itself. That's interesting. So everything gets super hot on the dyno. I'm assuming it melted a line for the air ride. So luckily it's in the front and not the back. So I think we're just going to keep moving forward. I am just kind of manually shaping the fuel curve now, primarily all the stuff that I just made changes to, but so far even the spots that were kind of off on a little bit, really we're only like a few % out, so we're pretty close. Holy hell, it's hot here. Right. Luckily this thing has AC. Check out, the big concern was that this wanted to stall out and die when the AC was on. So this is with the AC off, turn the AC on. Turn the AC back off, the idle comes back down a little bit. So that side of it's good. I still want to fix, ironically, clean up the idle, the return to idle with the AC off. I spent all my time on it yesterday with the AC on. And clean up this fuel curve, and then maybe we'll play with some cruising target air fuel ratio stuff and see how lean it'll go. I don't go too wild smoothing all this stuff out, making it look beautiful as I'm still kind of hammering away at it. Once we get everything, like the whole thing in the ballpark, then we can clean it up a little bit, but it's still not atrocious right now. This whole area looks way different than a normal map. I don't know if it's just because of the dual throttle bodies, but it's pretty much what it took to get it to be nice and snappy off idle. And played around with all the acceleration enrichment stuff for quite a while too. The most annoying thing so far is just that the idle is a little, I don't know, let's call it inconsistent. You can return its idle 15 times and it's perfectly fine, and then on the 16th time it wants to stumble a little bit, so I'll have to get a little kind of creative on figuring out a plan there. All right, I have the throttle just, the whole table just maxed out at like 12%. We're about 2,000 RPM, and we're gonna change only the target air fuel ratio and see what happens. Unfortunately, you can't see that screen at the same time, but you should be able to hear what's happening. So I'm 100% throttle with the pedal. We're at 12% TPS, 13.0 air fuel, 13.5, 14. No real change in power or torque. 14.5. You can actually audibly hear the car running worse now. Actually seems to be pretty unhappy right now. Torque starting to drop. Torque dropped a lot there. The whole car is like bucking and jerking now. And it's dropped about 25 foot-pounds of torque. So with all of that being said, this thing is not happy in the 15s on air fuel ratio. So we'll kind of reshape this whole target table. So much snappier off idle now. Before you could kind of feel like it would do like one of these numbers before it would sort of take off. A majority of that improvement was in the fuel table, not in the acceleration enrichment. it has to be 200 degrees in here. All right, I think I'm going to start doing some full throttle stuff, and then we'll come back and I can clean up some of the other sort of boring stuff. So yeah, start making some sweep runs. I just made the first run. I forgot to turn the camera on, and it was like 1 or 2% the whole run. And this thing's really healthy. It made 450, and I got timing pulled out of it. I wasn't expecting that. This thing's probably gonna be a blast to drive. I tried to buy it off him about 8 times now. He won't sell it to me. So here's our first run. All of our kind of health stuff all looks good. Look how flat the fuel pressure is. Like, doesn't change at all down here in blue. That's pretty crazy. Might need a percent or two of fuel here at 3,500, 3,200, whatever the hell that is. But next to nothing, and then got 5,700. It rolls over just a little bit. Probably rev it a touch higher, and we'll put a little timing in it, and we'll try a couple different target air fuel values and see if it likes anything else. Realistically, as far as the full throttle goes, it could leave here like that, but we'll still go through all the processes just like if it wasn't this close. 2 o'clock, I got a meeting in about a half an hour, so I think we should be able to finish this up today. I'm probably the only dipshit on the planet that manages to spend like 3 days on something as simple as this. Just clean up the fuel a little bit and put a little bit of timing in it. Obviously this isn't something that's going to get raised or beat on, so the power isn't nearly as important as just drivability. Runs great running up through the gears. .57. So timing's probably pretty good. I'm gonna overlay the graphs and see. Might even end up pulling some timing out, and then we'll try some different target air fuel ratios. There's a graph, nice and clean. So here you can see the red is with a little bit more timing. I liked it a lot up here. And I'm sure everybody by now has heard that term of removing timing at peak torque. And you can see peak torque's right here. And even though there's more timing in it, it didn't like it. So we're gonna pull some more timing out here. So before I make a target air fuel ratio change, I'm making changes just to the timing to pull that timing out of the peak torque area and shaped it a little bit differently. So basically I wanna get the timing exactly how it's going to be, so when we change the target air fuel ratio, we'll actually be able to see what the actual changes are instead of trying to guess and compare if the timing had anything to do with it. So the actual map in this thing visually looks kind of very untypical, and I guess I see why they were kind of struggling to get this thing to run the way that they wanted it to. I sure hope that they're happy with it now. I only have a few minutes left, so our runs up to this point we're done at 1260 air fuel. So now we're going to try a 1240 air fuel, and then we'll try a 1280 air fuel. I'm not really expecting huge differences, but it's just kind of a part of what you got to do. Looks like it's down pretty much everywhere. Yeah, we lost a little bit of power. So let's try 1280. Whoops, my meeting started about 5 minutes ago. Sorry about that. 59. So basically, we'll overlay it real quick, but it looks like 1260 is going to be the winner here. I see down low, it actually didn't make any effect on anything, but up here you can see in red 1240 made a little less power, and 1260 and 1280 were basically identical. So I'm going to take care of this meaning and then probably clean up a little bit of some more part throttle stuff and just hit some more RPM ranges and things, and then I'll pull it off the dyno, try and fix that airbag, and then hopefully we can take it out on the road. The actual air compressor is too loud to be able to tell where the leak's coming from, and it empties the pressure out so fast I can't like air it up and then run out to it. So hooked a regulator up to the line directly, and so the hose, right where my finger is, the hose was melted from the header. Oh yeah, there's a big nice hole in there, I can feel it. Let's see if this worked. Luckily it worked, otherwise I wouldn't be able to actually even move it out of the shop and it'd just be stuck here forever. So this thing started up great this morning. Been driving around, AC on, AC off, coming to stops, just, you know, trying to make it stall or surge or do any of that, and been good there. And even with the cam in this thing, you can cruise it at 1200 RPM, and it's not trying to snap your neck off. Probably been driving for, I don't know, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, populating the learn table, so we'll take a look at that. And the only thing that I think I really want to try and work on a little bit is, it's already way better, is a little bit of the transition, like from idle to cruise. And if we had a actual vehicle speed input, it would be way easier, but since we're doing it off of only throttle position, I'm gonna try and blend that a little bit better. And this is like the smoothest shifting manual transmission I've ever felt. When I was under the car, it looks like it's brand new or super clean or whatever. It's like right there is kind of what I want to clean up a little bit. Looks like our learn table is like 1%-ish. So we're able to dial that in pretty good on the dyno. I love that dyno, man. The steady state control on that thing is just invaluable. Pretty sure I say that on every one of these videos that I make. Alright, it's 4,000 degrees. I'm turning the AC back on and going back to the shop. Almost back to the shop. This is, Christ, this is probably just about an hour of driving. And I haven't touched the fuel table or the learn table or transferred anything. And it looks like right now it's showing plus 3%, which is kind of the highest it's been. But it's bounced back and forth between like -1, -2, +1, +2. I guess a little bit of +3s right now. So that just kind of goes to show that you can't necessarily chase zero. It's never going to be zero, but I'm not going to make a single fueling adjustment to this. Even when we're rolling, it turns down to idle real nice. It's so frustrating when you get one that will return to idle perfect when you're stationary, then once you start rolling it wants to shut off and do stupid things. Alright, yeah, see now we're back down to like the -2s. Alright, I'm gonna make a few small tweaks and drive it around a little bit more. And what's funny is probably could have tuned 2,000 to 3,000 horsepower cars in the amount of time that it took to do this. I get emails all the time where everyone's like, yeah, it shouldn't take you long, I'm not trying to make a bunch of power. Making the power is the quick and easy part. You saw this on the very first full throttle dyno pole, it was pretty much good enough, but all of this drivability stuff takes forever. Anyways, this feels like a good place to end this video, so I'll see you next time.